Hey guys, Jamal Gibbs here with Remax Structure, connecting you to beautifully designed homes worth living life to the fullest. And today I wanted to talk about a couple of questions that I've been getting lately from first-time home buyers as well as first-time investors. Usually I hear, Jamal, what do I look for when I'm buying this property? So I wanted to give you guys a quick list of what I look for when I go to check out a property that I'm going to buy. So the first thing would be to start from the top to bottom. So I usually check out the roof. And the main things I look for on the roof, I want to make sure that it's not majorly discolored in any way and that it's not too faded, because that usually means that it's towards the end of its life. Another thing I look for is that there aren't a ton of missing shingles. One or two is okay, but when you have a lot of shingles missing, probably means it's time to replace it. Another thing I look for is that there hasn't been a lot of hail damage. Usually in Colorado, we have some pretty good hailstorms every now and they can cause significant damage to the roof. So you always want to look out for these things when you're buying a new home. Another thing that I look for is the plumbing system, and you can usually check this out when you're in the basement. If it's unfinished, gives you easy access to see what's going on down there. You want to make sure that you don't have galvanized steel pipes, because these rust from the inside out. And it's hard to tell, but usually they look really old and you can see some spots of rust and you might even see holes. Another thing to look for is that it's not mixed materials. So say galvanized piping connecting to copper piping. This will cause an electronic current to run through and it'll eventually corrode the pipes and you'll see a drip where those two parts intersect. And another thing you want to look for as far as plumbing goes, you always want to get a sewer scope. That way you can check the status of that pipe leading from the house to the street. Usually a lot of older homes, they can have breaks in the line or what's called bellies. And you definitely want to get those repaired by the seller before you buy the home if you can. If not, you can always negotiate that into the price. Another thing is, if you see roots or something minor like that, you can usually get that cleaned out, so that's not a huge thing to worry about. Another thing, as far as looking at a house before I buy it, I usually check out the electrical. It's one of the major systems of the home, so got to make sure that's good. You want to make sure that the panel has been recently updated. Usually it'll be a newer box on the outside of the home. If it's an older box, it'll have a couple of switches, a couple breakers and circuits. You definitely want to get that replaced because it won't be up to code. Another thing you want to look for would be that the outlets are grounded, because non-grounded outlets can be a safety hazard and could potentially spark a fire. You also want to make sure that there aren't old wires in the home. You usually notice these because they're wrapped in a metal casing, and usually you can tell those right off the bat. They just look really old and worn down, most likely frayed, so you're going to want to get those replaced as soon as possible. Now, another part that I like to look at is the furnace and the water heater of the home. Usually furnaces last a pretty long time, couple decades, as long as you keep them cleaned and serviced and keep that air filter clean as well. But you definitely want to make sure that it's not past its normal life expectancy. Definitely make sure the air filter is newer or is new and has been cleaned. That way you can get the most efficiency out of the furnace. Also want to make sure the pilot light's on. That's another big thing. And as far as the water heater goes, most of those usually last from 8 to 10 years, so you're going to want to get that replaced after about 15. I've seen some of them last as long as 20 years, just as long as you keep up with the maintenance, but it's a good idea to get them replaced around that 10 to 15 year mark. Another thing you want to check for is going to be an obvious one. If there's no hot water running to any of the water fixtures in the house, most likely means that the water heater is not functioning as well as it should be. Another thing you want to look out for is rusty colored water. Usually this can mean that some of the connections or some parts on the inside have worn out and rusted on the inside, and it's causing a lot of problems with the water heater, and that's something that's definitely going to need to be replaced. And potentially you can have some water leaks in there as well around the unit. So if you see any of those, that's definitely a sign that you need to get that fixed. Alrighty guys, so these are some of the things that I look for when I go to purchase a home or when I help a buyer look for a home. Definitely want to make sure you give these a thorough check, and as always, if you can, get an inspection on the property because it'll point out most of these issues. And you know, you'll be in a much better position to negotiate. If anything is wrong, you might be able to ask for some money off to get that replaced. All right, guys, if you have any other questions or you would like any other information, just feel free to reach out to me at my website, or you can give me a call on my cell phone or send me an email, shoot me a text, write me a message on social media. Always looking at that and can answer any questions you guys might have. All right, thanks, guys. Have a great day.